for those who don't know me, I go around the world and interview tech executives, mostly at startups around the world with this new 360-degree camera. But we're not here to talk about media today. That's a different conference, and you can see me afterwards to talk about it. What I started noticing several years ago was that there's a new kind of software coming. In fact, Google has a team working on contextual technologies. And let's just run through the 5 forces that are bringing this new frictionless world. And the frictionless world is the world where your mobile phone is going to serve you, and the world where you're going to be studied, like I'm being studied right now by this Apple Watch that's watching my heart rate. So what is frictionless services or contextual services? They're like Uber. Many of you have taken an Uber ride here in Dubai. I just did last night. And it lets you see the taxi. It lets you hail the taxi or the ride. It knows where you are. You get to see where the ride is as it comes towards you. I don't have to hand any credit card to the driver. I don't have to hand any cash to the driver. It's frictionless. And there's a few forces that are bringing this to mention. Where are my slides here? The little yellow thing is a new parking sensor. So that's one of the forces. Let's. The first force is sensors. We're seeing all sorts of new sensors that we're going to wear, that are going to be aimed at us, that are going to be in the ground on street corners and in retail stores. We're getting sensors in baby bottles. We're getting sensors. My new desk there has a sensor in it that studies whether I'm standing or sitting. The second force is the Internet of Things and wearables. Already we're getting watches and things maybe on our face. But we're soon going to be seeing all sorts of things around us. This is, again, that parking sensor that's being built for your self-driving car when you get it, because your self-driving car needs to know where a parking spot is available, so it's going to have a sensor in the parking spot. The guy here on the left is building a computer for ski goggles. He runs Recon Instruments, and in the ski goggle, it tells you how fast you're going down the slope, what your jump time if you jump. I don't do that on purpose. And it tells you other things. It tells you where your kids are on the slope as well, if they have an Android phone or an iPhone. We're going to see a variety of new devices like this. Google has invested $500 million in a company called Magic Leap, which is a new kind of glass. And if I had one of those today, as I look around the room, it would augment. It would put things on the real world, and it would be quite interesting to talk about. The third force is the amount of data about where we are is getting sharper and sharper and sharper. I mean, databases like this one that Facebook is using, and I think this is Nokia's database, didn't exist really 10 years ago. Today, it knows what kind of building we're in. It knows how popular it is, and the data about where we are keeps getting sharper. And the amount of social data continues going up exponentially. We're seeing 500 million tweets per day. I remember the days when I first got on Twitter, there was only 70,000 tweets total. And today we're seeing that in a fraction of a second, right? And the fifth force is that we're seeing cloud-connected databases. So my watch is connecting to the cloud and reporting things and seeing new kinds of patterns. This new camera is collecting 1 terabyte per hour of data, and it's putting it up on the cloud so you can watch it with your new Oculus Rift when you get that next year. So what are these frictionless services, and why do we need to care about it as economies and as product people and as people who are concerned with the future of the world? Where these are new kinds of services and products that are changing because of these 5 forces. The contextual services are trying to get ahead of you. They're trying to study you to give you new insights that just were not possible before. How many people use Google Now in this room, or know what it is at least? Google Now. Yeah, Google Now is an app on your Android phone or on your iPhone that tells you the traffic is going to be bad between here and your next meeting. It tells you your sports team scores. It tells you all sorts of stuff about your airline tickets if you need to pick somebody up at the airport today. It's doing that by studying you, by getting into your email, into your calendar, watching your search behaviors, watching your Internet of Things behaviors. At one speech, it tried to take control of the TV and say on my phone, would you like to control the TV? Because the TV had an API and it sensed that. It's trying to change. So let's talk about some of these products. We know about the watch, but the JBL Pulse speaker that's coming out this September is going to have a little sensor in it, and it listens to the music or the noise in the room and can do things on the screens that it's on. We're seeing new kinds of LED lights coming along. I expect to see a bunch of these this Christmas. We're seeing new kinds of payment systems. I am now seeing things like Topingo, and I'll talk about this, where I don't pay, I don't give a credit card, I don't give a cash over anymore. These are starting to change our lives. What really is going on is the world is shifting because of our mobile phone. Our expectations are changing because we are expecting to be served by the world to our phone. When I was in Singapore at the Cards and Payments Show, we talked about McDonald's delivers right to your phone. Uber comes right to my phone. And in the future, we're going to see all sorts of things come to our phone. I'll talk about a few of them in a second. Oops. So there's some thinking that you have to do. I'm sorry. This clicker's a little sticky. Come on. Okay, there's some thinking that we have to do as business people now, and in talking to the world's best business people, they're saying we need to start studying everything about everything. If you don't know the wait times in your retail stores, you're not yet studying enough. If you don't know all sorts of things, Uber knows where the demand is. Uber knows where the customer is standing. Uber knows where every transaction is happening in real time. Uber knows the wait times if you're at a music festival and there's a line. It knows everything about the business. And this is changing how we run our businesses. At Microsoft, I was reviewed every 6 months. An Uber driver is reviewed in real time, every single ride. And by the way, they're reviewing you as well. If you get sick in the car or destroy the car or rude, they give you a bad rating, and you might not get picked up the next time, right? And you're reviewing the driver as well. So if the driver is rude, you're going to give him a bad review. He's going to get fired. This is changing how we're thinking about all sorts of things inside companies. So the other thing is, the imperative that I want you to take away is, how well do you know your customers? You know, thanks to Facebook, this is Christy Wells. She started the Social Media Club. She just met Paloma Faith, who's a big music star in the UK. She went to Facebook and immediately liked her page on Facebook. And Paloma Faith uses a software called Audience.fm that watches her audience and gets to see trends amongst her audience. We still do not know very much about our customers. What are their other likes on Facebook? What are their networks like? What are their thinking? And we're going to know this. We are going to know it in very deep detail in 10 years. We're going to be studied by digital signs like this that I saw at the Consumer Electronics Show. This is an eBay sign. They have 3D sensors on it. They're watching your eyes, where you're looking. They're watching what you're touching. They're even looking at your body, and they can get if you spin around in front of the sensor, it can get within a 1/4 inch your measurements so that they can sell you new kinds of clothes very quickly without having a person come over and measure you. We are gonna, and all of that gets put in a database. So how are we going to know more about our customers? Well, there's some weird and scary technologies coming along very, very quickly. This is a company in Brazil called Shopperception. They're using a 3D sensor from an Israeli company called PrimeSense that Apple bought for $1 billion. So this is technology that's becoming pretty real. This technology is so sensitive that it can see how hard I'm touching on a table if the sensor is overhead. And in this case, it sees if I'm buying a certain kind of cereal by my hand moving toward the cereal. And the screen along the side of the retail store can change as my hand goes to let's say, a Cheerios. I don't know what the popular brands are here in Dubai, but in the United States, I buy Cheerios. And it can say along the side, hey, if you buy 3 boxes, you'll get 10 loyalty points or something like that. Or it could say, hey, there's a different brand you'll get for half off if you try a new brand, right? Try to change people's brand behavior. But they're going to be studying us in stores with sensors like this in very deep detail. The one in the middle is ShelfBucks. They won the Demo God Award about a year ago. It has several little radios in there, and there's going to be several of these in a retail store. So as you walk around with your phone, it's going to talk to the ShelfBucks, and if you tap it, it tells you stuff about the display, right? You might be at the cookie display in a grocery store, and it can say, hey, if you buy Oreos, you'll get 10 loyalty points, or it can tell you these ones are gluten-free, if that's some dietary restriction you have, stuff like that, on and on. This company is from the wine industry in California. It's Bintank. They're studying every mention of wine on social networks. Already they're seeing 1.5 million tweets per day about wine. And every time let's say we were having a glass of wine and we said we are having a great time in Dubai drinking Cabernet, it builds a profile on us. And think about what one tweet could say about who we are. If I say I'm having Sutter Home wine, that means I'm only buying a $10 bottle of wine. And the other wineries can know that, can see that in real time, and can change what they're going to offer you. Particularly if you go to Napa or a wine region and you go into the store, the guy at the front could be wearing something like a Google Glass and could say, oh, hey, come over here and see my $10 wines. Whereas if we were drinking Camus, which is about $100, $200 bottle of wine, I might get walked into the reserve room where the profits are higher, right? How does this stuff work, and what are some of the new things coming? Well, we're seeing new technologies called beacons. And these beacons, this is one of them, spit 3 numbers into the air every 10th of a second. In fact, this one is doing that. It's and your phone around the room can see this beacon and see how close it is. So if this is sitting on a table at a restaurant, you can have a new kind of mobile app. In fact, there's an app called Downtown that does exactly this. This is given to me by the owner of Downtown. And it can see, oh, we're sitting at table 13. So now, instead of getting the server's attention, I can just say I would like a hamburger brought to table 13. And a hamburger shows up in 2 minutes, and everybody's happy. They put this on a restaurant, in Silicon Valley. Sales were increased 20% the first week. So you're going to do stuff like this because it increases sales, it reduces friction, and makes people happier. That's the guy who runs Broadcom. These radios, by the way, are about $10 in quantity. At the Coachella Music Festival, they had 160 at the music festival around the field, and it told you what parking lot you were at when you were walking around with your mobile phone. And then if you walked in, it said, welcome to the Coachella Music Festival. And if you were in a certain venue, it would say, oh, this performer's running late. It would tell you on your mobile phone. So the bleeding edge of the technology world is already using these. We're going to see more and more every year in cities to make the cities smarter, make the retail stores smarter, make our museums smarter. Think about having a mobile phone and walking around a museum, and it just tells you what you're seeing, right? It needs something like a beacon to do that. We're seeing cars change quite radically. I don't know if you've seen the Google self-driving car. Oops. Hold on. But the spinning thing on top of the car, when you see a self-driving car, is a LiDAR. It has 80 lasers that see about 100 meters away. And because it can't see further than 100 meters, it's stupid about what's happening on the road ahead. So if there's an accident on the road and it should turn off and go around the accident, it's not that smart. Well, contextual technologies are hooking that together. Waze, for instance, tells me there's an object in the road, slow down, right? It says that. It says, hey, there's an object on the road. Or it tells me to turn around because there's some accident in front of me. The car itself is getting contextual. It's starting to know what is happening ahead. The Google one, if you saw the latest TED Talk, is actually trying to predict will the bicycle that's the bicyclist that's driving along the car, what's the likelihood that he's going to pull in front of the car and the car is going to have to do something? It's predicting. And that's what all of us are going to start doing with our software. We're going to start predicting what is the likelihood we're going to do another action soon. And it's going to start serving us in this way, just like Google now is serving us this way. We're seeing cities changing, and certainly after being here for two days, I'm seeing a lot of new ideas. A lot of the entrepreneurs are thinking about, how do I deliver things? How do I build new businesses that take advantage of the mobile technology? In San Francisco, there's a salad company that delivers a salad to your mobile phone in about 15 minutes for about $10, and it's a great salad. I can't get this in my home in Half Moon Bay, which is 45 minutes away, because the population density is not high enough to support this kind of business. And you're seeing a lot of new businesses. Instacart in California delivers groceries. Dropcam has a new digital scale that will work with Amazon to bring all the ingredients for a recipe, and then it'll teach you how to make something new with the scale very precise. It's really cool. But this is changing cities because all of a sudden young people do not want to live in the suburbs. When my dad moved to Silicon Valley, he didn't want to live in the city. That was where the crime was, where the poor services were, where the crappy grocery store was, where the bad schools were. Today, that's switching. Today, the kids are seeing that the good schools are in the downtown area. The good services are in the downtown area because of the urban density. And we're seeing, I'm now jealous of a lot of the people who live in an urban setting where you can get stuff like this delivered. I can't get most of these things delivered to me in the suburban neighborhood that I live in. We're certainly starting to see all sorts of health innovation. I just visited Samsung in Taiwan and Korea, and they're developing all sorts of sensors to both stick underneath your skin to look at glucose level. They have these new micro needles that don't hurt. If you're a diabetic, this is a greatly preferred method of studying your glucose level than before. In fact, you see some of these needles over here that are really small. We're seeing all sorts of sensors that are going to be put on us to study our health, and I think our employers are going to, well, in some cases, force you to wear these sensors. The president in the United States, his pilots have to wear a sensor to study their sleep pattern and make sure that they've had enough sleep to properly fly the president around. We're seeing sensors that study air quality and warn you when your air quality is not good enough. You're seeing sensors that are going to be swallowed and study your innards. You're seeing sensors that are already saving lives in the United States. This company called Lively puts a sensor on the pill bottle of your elderly parents and a sensor on their refrigerator door and a sensor on their front door. It warns you if your parent doesn't get out of bed and doesn't take their medicine, and you call them up, hey dad, why aren't you taking your medicine? And it's already saved 2 lives because it sensed that the people were sick and not able to get out of bed, and that somebody went and checked on them. And this lets elderly people have much more independent lives. They don't have to be watched 24 hours by a human being, which is very intrusive. I certainly wouldn't want somebody living with me when I'm 80 years old, right? We're seeing this world change because of notifications. I went to the Coachella, this is my picture at the Coachella Music Festival, and this is the notifications that I saw as I was walking around that field. It tells me things as I walk around. So we're thinking new ways of doing business thanks to the mobile phone. We're doing new things with sensors, new things with these beacons, new things with health monitors on us, new things with databases. Now this is a really interesting company. If you haven't heard about this, and most people even in the United States haven't heard of this company, 70% of all the transactions at Santa Clara University are already going through their system. It's an app that your kids will buy everything from. So let's say we're a kid at Santa Clara University. We pull out our mobile phone at 7 in the morning when we get up. We buy a Starbucks coffee. It says your Starbucks coffee will be ready at 7:23 a.m. because it put you in a virtual queue. That went to the cloud and to a box that's sitting in the Starbucks. The Starbucks box beeps, it lights up, and it spits out a receipt that goes into the workflow. So the student just goes in, picks up the coffee, and leaves. No credit card, no cash. This is the future of the world. I don't want to take cash out of my wallet. I don't want to take credit card out of my wallet. I just want to do business with you, and it charges me for it. Like an Uber does. This is coming. And if you think it's not, goes to Santa Clara University. It's coming, and the investors are putting a lot of money in this. This guy is invested by Vinod Khosla, one of the more famous venture capitalists. By the way, this system is contextual. So if you buy the same latte every day every morning, the 5th morning it'll say, hey, do you just want your normal iced latte? It knows what you buy. It knows you as a customer, and it takes clicks away from you, so you don't have to start searching for your coffee anymore. It just says, hey, you will get a coffee every morning when you wake up. Would you like one waiting for you next time? And by reducing friction, sales are going up. Also, because of the notifications, if there's too much of a product, they can notify everybody and say, hey, half off of coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or half off of sushi, or whatever. And that's changing how the business world is working and how efficient it's working. House Call is one of these apps, and I got 1 minute. This is in San Diego. You order a plumber or a roofer or a painter to come to your house. You see reviews that are only written by other customers, so there's no spamming of the reviews or no gaming of the reviews. And you see when the repair person is driving to you. Again, like Uber, it takes friction away. There's new banking systems coming, reducing friction because of these technologies. The kids want the bank completely in the mobile phone. We don't want to go into a bank anymore. We're going to see new kinds of grocery store checkout counters. This one was at Y Combinator, which is a famous startup incubator. It has 4 low-cost cameras, and you put a bag of Doritos underneath it, and it says Doritos, and it sells you Doritos. And and it reduces friction. It makes things faster. This stuff is coming. So the big 3D printed elephant in the room that I haven't talked about is privacy. Because this stuff freaks people out. When I talk about it, every time I ask, how many people are freaked out by this world? You're going to be studied in a new ways. This thing knows when I'm having sex. If you didn't think about that, it does. Right? Does that freak you out? It freaks me out a little bit. We're going to be studied in new ways that are going to be freaky. But I think we are going to give up our privacy because there's going to be deep utility. And I'll explain why. I have an app on my iPhone called TripIt. Now, if we had this conference 10 years or 15 years ago, we would be arguing, are we going to give email access to other companies? Well, TripIt has access to my Gmail. So TripIt is a public company owned by Concur, and it can look inside my Gmail. Think about that one. I don't know what it's doing in there, but it's looking for travel tickets and hotels and airline stuff. It also asks for my credit card. So this thing has access to my email, it has access to my credit card, and it has access to my GPS on my phone, so it knows I'm standing here right now. But it saved me one night in Chicago. In Chicago, I was flying home, and TripIt said my flight, we were in the plane, about to fly, about to get on the runway, and TripIt said, your flight's being canceled. Here's another flight out of town. I'm like, I've learned to trust TripIt, and if you don't know what TripIt is hooked into the information system of the airlines, the air traffic control system. And so when it says your flight's being canceled, it's accurate because, I'll get there. It's accurate because it's hooked into the system that's running the thing. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, the pilot came on and said, I can't start an engine. We're going back to the terminal, and you're going to have to get another flight home. There was only 3 seats that night on that other flight. I got one of them. So by giving up my privacy, by buying into this new world, I got deep utility. And this thing is going to save my life someday. Not today, but someday you're going to be wearing a sensor that's going to tell you things like you're going to have a heart attack tomorrow. I've already seen a sensor like this. So it's going to save your life. It's going to save you time in airports. It's going to save you time in the grocery store. It's going to save you time at school. It's going to save you doing something stupid at work, right? And the utility is going to be there. And so we're going into this new world, but it is a scary new world. So we should have a global conversation about how do we protect people's privacy and expectations with this new technology. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here.